College football realignment is officially a reality as we will see powerhouses Oregon and USC along with UCLA and Washington in the Big Ten for the first time in their storied history. Over at ESPN Bet, Georgia and Ohio State are the favorites to win the national championship, followed closely Oregon, who has the third shortest odds. The Ducks are one of three teams with at least 10% chance to reach bowl season undefeated. And look who is here. Paul Finebaum and Heather Dinich. Wait for it. There they are, joining us from Big Ten Media Days. Good morning to both of you. Thank you so much for being with us. I apologize, Paul, your friend Dog is not here. So it's just, or Stephen A. It's just me and Joe. So we'll play nice today. Paul, I want to start with you. Is SEC and Big Ten dominance, is that going to be good for college football?
Well, for those who don't know, they own the sport right now, and they've even made it worse by forming an alliance, Molly. The question is it good for football? It doesn't bother me because I think football should be determined by who your best schools are. By the way, that's not exactly how we do it. As Heather talks about all the time, the 12-team playoff is not necessarily the 12 best, as Nick Saban campaigned for a week ago. It's a convoluted system. But I think it's okay. I mean, football is a brute sport, survival of the fittest. So if Liberty or Tulane or somebody gets left out, who cares?
Paul's right. Conference realignment, yeah, it hasn't changed what's already existed. The Big Ten and the SEC have won 8 of the past 10 CFP titles, okay? So the foundation is already there. I think the bigger issue with conference realignment is how much more difficult the SEC and Big Ten just became for those middle-of-the-pack teams trying to get to the conference championship game. I'm talking about the Marylands, the Minnesotas, the Indianas, Kentuckys of the world, right? The teams that are trying to go from good to great. This made it that much more difficult. College football is completely unequal. It always has been. It always will be. On the field, off of it, in terms of finances and resources, this exacerbates all of that, not only from coast to coast, but within their own leagues.
Hell yeah. Big Ten and SEC dominance is good for college football. Hell yeah. This is what we want. Back in the day, we wanted Ali and Frazier, right? We liked Manning and Brady. Those are the situations we want. College football has never been better than the last decade, and a large reason for that is the 14 college football playoff, of which we've seen Alabama 8 times and Ohio State 5 times. Georgia's been in there 2 of the last 3 years. Who are the 3 schools that have produced the most NFL talent over the last decade? Those 3 schools. That's what the people want to see. Those games are the best games week in and week out. Yes, back in its previous iteration, the Pac-12 could give you a game here and there. The Big 12 could give you some shootouts, but at the end of the day, you want to see the best matching up with the best. And every time Lincoln Riley's Oklahoma Sooners would make it into the playoff, they would get waxed right out by someone from the SEC or the Big Ten. I don't think anyone has any problem with this dominance. This is what you want to see on a weekly basis. This is the NFL light. You've got the AFC and the NFC, you've got the SEC, and you've got the Big Ten.
Paul, let me ask you this really quick. What are your expectations for SC and Oregon?
I am extremely high on Oregon. I think Dan Lanning is an elite coach, and with Dylan Gabriel, I think they have a chance to really contend for the Big Ten. I think they're a playoff team. I think they're a playoff team that goes far. To me, SC is going backwards. I mean, I found it just amazing yesterday that Lincoln Riley, who, by the way, left Oklahoma because he was scared of the SEC. He left one of the great programs in college football history to go to another one. Yesterday, Lincoln Riley was complaining, well, you know, we're not quite there with facilities. We're not quite there with NIL. Hey, Lincoln, you didn't have to take the money and go to Hollywood. You didn't have to take Caleb Williams with you. You didn't have to try to destroy the program that you inherited from Bob Stoops. You didn't build it. You inherited it. So I don't really know where SC is going. I think it really is a very awkward move. I think the fact that Washington and Oregon are better suited for the Big Ten than USC and UCLA. And we didn't even talk about Deshaun Foster. I'm not even sure he knew where he was yesterday at Big Ten Media Days.
They hit in the SEC. They hit in the Big Ten. Dan Lanning's from the SEC. He understands that. He understands what you're going to need to have as a mental makeup, as a psychological component, as a culture, to go to war with teams like that in conferences like that week in and week out. USC's not that program. USC hasn't been that program in a long time, if ever. Under Pete Carroll, they had a competition streak to them. They were very competitive. They were very talented. They had a lot of flash on offense, and they were very good on defense as well. Think about the linebackers they produced: Clay Matthews, Brian Cushing, Ray Maualuga, guys like that. They could hit. But those days are gone, right? They're a finesse team now. Lincoln Riley's a brilliant offensive mind. They can score a lot of points. They don't stop anybody. That's the problem.
People don't understand is there was a lot of work to be done when Lincoln Riley got to USC. He was not handed the keys to the Lamborghini. This is something that had to be invested. And I think when he got all those transfers, they exceeded. He told me this 2 years ago. They exceeded expectations a little bit, and then it kind of evened out. Yes, the second half of last season was a disaster. He knows that. He has a new defensive coordinator in Danton Lynn. Let's see how that works out first. But I will remind everyone, 2 years ago, USC was a game away from getting into the college football playoff. They were number 4 going into the Pac-12 Conference Championship game. It takes a lot to be number 4 in the College Football Playoff Selection Committee meeting room going into that game. Also, he's been to the College Football Playoff before when he was at Oklahoma. This is not disastrous at USC. This is on the way up. This is getting it to the right place. And we're talking about, you know, the Big Ten and the SEC. When these blue bloods are at their best, college football is at their best. And I think you guys are being way too hard on Lincoln Riley, who has the program trending in the right direction.
Paul, you want to respond?
Listen, I love Heather, but I think she's being very kind to Lincoln Riley. When we use phrases like disaster, that's bad. And I think everything in college football, Heather and everyone else, is trajectory. And all of a sudden, USC at the epicenter of college football not that long ago, and they're 4th, 5th, 6th in this brand new league. And I don't see a lot of room to get ahead. So I love Heather's optimism. I wish I had as much as she did. But I don't think this is going well for Lincoln Riley at all, Molly.
Yeah.
2 seasons ago, USC was phenomenal, right? They had Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
They gave up 29 points per game. Alex Grinch was the defensive coordinator. Anyone who watched those games knew they were a problem. They kept Alex Grinch. They gave up 34 points per game last season. They couldn't get stops. They hung 40 and couldn't win. You had Caleb Williams. You had an obligation to upgrade your problems. You didn't do it. That is the responsibility of the head coach.
All right.
Give me something.